Hello and welcome everyone to the second of our Irish Unionist streams. Today we'll be having a much more relaxed stream and it'll be more of a short one out of all the other ones. We'll only have two guests as per usual. One of them comes from overseas. He's a supporter from overseas, and then we have one of our latest members of the Irish Unionist Party. I'll let them both introduce themselves, and yeah. I'll let Net7 go first to introducing himself, and I'll let you go, David, all right?
Thank you.
Well, thanks for having me on, Tristan. I really do appreciate it. And I also want to thank you for all the work that you and the Irish Unionist Party are doing. You guys are doing an excellent job, a lot of great work, and so I commend you for that. So to your audience, I'm Net7. I'm a neoconservative streamer from the United States. I hail from the great sunny state of Arizona. Lots of sun, lots of heat. But I I'm a neoconservative activist, a neoconservative streamer. Also a student right now, and I'm planning on getting a bachelor's degree at Grand Canyon University over in Phoenix in the fall in Homeland Security and Emergency Management Studies. I came to to support Irish Unionism through Tristan. Actually, I saw his content on Twitter. I saw his content on YouTube, and I had never heard of Irish Unionism before. I before I started looking into what his content was. And when I started listening and reading and hearing what he had to say, and on Twitter and social media, but also reviewing Irish Unionism on my own time, I began to see that unfortunately here in America we have a lot of these myths about what occurred during the Troubles. Here in America, because of the a large, like we have a very large Irish diaspora in the country, and a lot of myths have been made about the Troubles that have been very pro Sinn Fein, very bit pro Irish nationalist, and a lot of these, like a lot of these myths have gone on, promoting essentially a group, Sinn Fein, that engaged in terrorism, that engaged in intimidation, that engaged in blackmail, engaged in terrible activities. And as I began to research the topic and realize, you know what, a lot of what I've been told about the conflict has not been true. And so I became an avid supporter of Irish Unionism because having looked into it and studied the issue a bit, the people of Ireland, the people of Wales, the people of Scotland, and the people of Britain are people of two isles, four different peoples, but united under one kingdom. And I support that notion thoroughly, wholeheartedly. And yeah, that will be my introduction.
All right, if you want to go ahead, David, and tell the folks about yourself.
Yeah. Wow, Stefan, that's very good. First of all, I'm David O'Connell from a town called Barna in County Mayo, and I've been so frustrated with Ireland having, been partitioned, you know, this time 100 years ago, because everything that while I'm into history, I just absolutely deplore all the goings on, since then. And the fact that I'm on the autistic spectrum, Ireland was dire to me growing up, even though my family did the best for me, being honest. And I always look at services across the water, like, being miles ahead of where they are now in Ireland. And it's I mean it's just awful frustration.
May I ask, David, when did you first get into Irish Unionism?
Last year, the year before, I think.
Um, what sort of led you to sort of drift towards unionism opposed to other ideologies that you could have went down?
Well, it's a very good question, Tristan, because I generally believe that, I mean, I think so much of the strife could have been saved if Ireland did achieve, um, home rule, and my type of services that are in England, they would be far superior of the Irish equivalent. I have to say that much.
Yep, that's a very good point. Yeah. I thought I'd quickly do a quick briefing of what's happened over the past few weeks, because last time we done a broadcast was, I think it was like a month back,
Right.
which
Yeah.
I kind of regret not doing. But I mean, we got a lot of good things done for the Irish Unionist Party. We got you, David, officially sort of signed up as an official sort of signed up name for the Irish Unionist Party, and many others. We've officially made full contact with basically Raffo area, which hopefully should boost our numbers greatly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, but the best thing I'd say that's happened over the past few weeks was some of the official parties in Northern Ireland. Great compliments from a lot of people. I'll quickly show you that image here. This image was taken in Ballymoney, current place of residence due to me having to flee Kilkenny. On the left, yeah, is my great mate, Matthew, co-founder. We were given that flag by the other guy on the right. He's a Liverpool man, a Liverpool Irishman, or sort of like Anglo-Irish. He decided he came all the way over from Liverpool, came all the way to that very night, and he just handed me over a flag, and he just said, "That's for yous," and I have it up right there. I'll be having that taken down to Connacht whenever we do like a rally there, or to Donegal or whenever, to do like a sort of wee IUP march. Should be very good.
Yeah.
And we also had greatly was in Dublin at the Dublin rally. I met Kieran, who's I hope I'm saying his name right. He's an official DUP member in the south of Ireland, and he was very friendly to me. I was sat there in front of the GPO handing out flyers,
Wow.
and that was me in Trinity College with the Union flag.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
I was sat there having to walk through the streets of Dublin, having to debate Republicans on the way, handing out flyers, and it was very good because a lot of the times it sort of ended in a draw where the Republicans couldn't prove unionism wrong, and I think that is really, really great for the unionist cause. Whenever we can get them to the point where they can't actually like say that we're wrong on our thoughts, but yeah, there's a lot of planned out future events as I've listed out on Twitter, and I should make a Facebook group post, and I'm going to shout out the Facebook group.
Brilliant.
If you're on Facebook, lads, quite a lot of our membership, a lot of them are very public about their face and everything. Because I know on Twitter everyone's like, "Oh, I don't believe the IUP members are real," but as you can see, David's real. A lot of the other members on the Facebook group are real. If you want to join and just have a chat with us, it's an open debate on Facebook.
Yeah.
We're always open.
Yeah.
And, just come around and visit the IUP Facebook page.
Yeah.
But shall we actually, talking about the Facebook page, I would like to bring up this very good point because I don't know what your views on this, David, is. What's your views on the British pound? Should the Republic of Ireland accept it as a second currency to be used within the country, or what's your views on?
In addition to the euro, I would say that in addition to the euro.
Yeah, definitely. Because
Yeah.
I made a long post about it on Facebook, and a great point was posted out by a guy in Leitrim. Not going to show his name, but this is what he said, which was basically, some of us use the pound as proper money in Leitrim. And he went on about how Kildare and everything, which there's a big thing with people from Kildare and all that. I won't get into that because I was go into the whole Anglo-Irish rant, and I think we should better avoid that.
Yeah.
But also, actually, this person brings up a great point about the NHS. That's always a point. I try to avoid saying that because it's such a low blow to the Republic. We have free healthcare in the north.
Yeah.
David, what's your views on free healthcare? Do you think the
I
Republic
would
of Ireland?
I would be on first, you know.
Yeah.
I actually would be first, you know. I really would, you know.
Do you have to pay for anything, or no, or is it free? for you?
It's mostly free, except
Except,
it's a slight problem, guys.
but
I go to a dentist in Bana once every 6 months, and it is astronomical expensive for me to go to the dentist.
like how much are we talking here?
70 to 80 euro for a fucking teeth clean.
Jesus wept. I didn't realize it was that bad. That's pretty bad.
Yeah, dreadful, dreadful.
Is it free for the youth? Because I know with braces, right? Whenever you grow up above 18, you have to start paying in Britain, or at least in Northern Ireland, you have to start paying whenever you're above 18. Because I had to get braces, but is it free for the youth in the south? Would you know, or
No, I'm not sure.
yeah?
I'm not sure, but it's outrageous. The
Hmm.
prices I'm fucking telling you guys about, you know.
Well, just the prices in general in the Republic, I find are
Dreadful,
a bit,
dreadful.
yeah. A lot of our members who I had planned to bring on, which would be some of our lads from Limerick, a lot of them couldn't come on tonight just because of work and them having to do overtime constantly. Like,
Mm.
I know one of our guys. I'm not going to say the hours that he's working, but
Oh, don't, no, no.
it is honestly dreadful just to keep his house. Like, I think rent is a massive issue.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say the point to a lot of Sinn Féin people. They're like, "Oh, would you ever want to join the United Ireland?" And I said, well, I'm only paying like 700 a month for like a 6-bedroom house. Why would I give up that?
Yeah.
All I have is to lose, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way a lot of people in Northern Ireland see it. But I'll let Net7 talk a bit about, unless if you wanted to talk about another subject before Net7 talks about the issues in America. Is there any sort of subject you want to talk about?
Well, I can talk about the some of the stuff going on in America, and then while David thinks of a topic, if you want.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we're only at 13 minutes, so I mean, like, you can talk about that, David. You can think of something to do with, especially in your area. There's a lot in, like, you know, in the Connacht areas and Munster areas. Believe it or not, that's where we find most of our first membership is from Connacht people. You're not the only person from Connacht in the movement. Believe it or
Go
not.
away. Go away. Unbelievable.
So it's anyways, I'll let Net7 go on while you think away.
So when we look at some of the stuff going on in America as it relates to the Republic of Ireland or Great Britain and such like that, Sinn Féin, etc., you know, your viewers may not know this, but there are organizations in the United States that actually advocate on behalf of Sinn Féin. They're political action groups that raise in excess of, well, sadly, millions of dollars for Sinn Féin. If for the viewers who may not be aware, organization in the U.S. called Friends of Sinn Féin, and what Friends of Sinn Féin does is essentially it is a political action group in the in different nations like Scotland, England, Wales, Canada, Australia, and the United States. And one of those chapters is Friends of Sinn Féin USA. and that their headquarters is over in the U.S. And now Friends of Sinn Féin, one of its biggest things is that it essentially helps raise money for Sinn Féin's activities. And if any of you guys read the Irish Times, you'll who report on very often what kind of money Sinn Féin is essentially raking in. That money that they're raking in from Friends of Sinn Féin USA, which is essentially where they get a huge amount of contributions, are in excess of over £1 million. So just think about the what you can buy with that sort of political power you can buy with those kind of contributions and things like that. And there's a lot of people that are raising, essentially donating that money, and this has been going on for quite some time. So every year, Friends of Sinn Féin does like a big sort of event, in the United States, either in Chicago or New York City. And what they'll do is essentially at this wonderful dinner, they'll have like, lots of high profile businessmen or celebrity types and things like that. And essentially, uh, ra- rake in tons of cash, or in your case, British pounds, to fund their nefarious activities. And I kind of was surprised. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, we know the history of Sinn Féin. We know that they were the political wing of the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, which was a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
And even though they keep saying that, oh, the IRA doesn't exist, or and again, that's disputed, because again, there's the new IRA, those who decided after the Good Friday Agreement that they weren't going to put down their guns and they were going to keep on fighting. And a lot of those former IRA members, even after the um, Good Friday Agreement, still it didn't, became a part of Sinn Féin. They just essentially put down their balaclavas and put on suits and ties. And so I wondered myself, how is this even authorized and legal? Because you literally have this group, like literally a foreign political action group, literally raising millions of dollars in donations to fund essentially their political activities in another country. And I think that unionists need to get something like that going here in the United States. That's going to take some work, obviously. I think what unionists have failed to do compared to the nationalists is that the nationalists have had years of experience in really networking and really doing their fundraising, and stuff like that. And I think that unionists, really have to catch up, and they have to start getting active. But it's also up to us here in the United States, to stop, to really investigate, where is this money, who's donating this money, where's it coming from, and where, and there's more importantly, where is it going to? What is it being used for? And I would suggest that that money is being used for not so good purposes.
True. Yeah.
Just to throw in the point about the funding, there's a massive issue that Fianna Gael, I'm pretty sure it was, that pointed it out during the election. It was actually a great advert, I have to say. It was a brilliant, just sort of advert that Fianna Gael made, which was, they pointed out that in the Republic of Ireland, especially with the American funding, there's very strict rules in the Republic of Ireland about funding, which the IUP will be having assistance from some guys who actually have, contacts with big parties in the Republic of Ireland. We actually have the contacts that'll help us set all that up. But Sinn Féin during the election, which is why they were able to get such a big sweep of a propaganda campaign across the Republic last election, which was absolutely horrific what happened last election in the Republic of Ireland. But the reason why that is because those millions of dollars, or pounds, or euros, it's all still millions. The max amount that you're allowed to use during an Irish election is €2,000. That is it, only €2,000. IRA, or not, Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA, they decided that they were allowed to go by the UK rules, since that they said as a statement was, we're allowed to use millions during this election to buy all these like fancy, billboards and everything because we're a 26 and 6 county party, which Fianna Gael pointed out was a very partitionist statement from a not so partitionist party. They'll change their views depending what will profit them the most. That's the way of it. But I'll let you continue on, lads. I'm not gonna rant on. Could rant all night.
And I'm just thinking about, guys, Connacht is the poorest province in Ireland. It has always been. And services were absolutely horrendous because the guys had absolutely no learning support in national school at all during the 80s.
Is there like not much support around the rural areas, sort of, or just on the?
That's right.
coast?
That's right. In the 80s and the 90s,
Yeah.
there aren't really appropriate services,
Yeah.
for myself,
Yeah. I always go ahead.
Ireland, and guys, if Ireland had home rule instead of sheer independence and being separated totally from a neighbouring island, I'm sure I would have come on leaps and bounds,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I really believe this,
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ireland has everything. If Ireland was the best way Ireland can benefit is from sticking with its neighbouring countries like with England, Wales, and Scotland, and just because the whole thing is, and I will never understand this where Republicans come from in this, where they'll say, "Oh yes, we can profit from joining the European Union and being in a union with Britain and all that, and we could still profit from it and all that." But then they don't really take into the accounts of the taxations and everything, and then they'll just refuse to actually be within a proper union, which would be a national union with the rest of the United Kingdom. For some reason, that is just unthinkable. And I always say it's all down to tribalism. That's it, really. They'll say, "Oh, we don't want to share a country with the Anglos or the Scots and all that." I mean, as apparently one of the most forward-thinking nations, we do have a lot of what could be classified as racism in our politics, which isn't too great. I always say to people, we need to be more diverse as a nation, and I actually put it on one of our flyers, if I could find it here. Sorry, folks. I should have taken this stuff out of the folder before the stream, but this is my business folder. It's absolutely stuffed with stuff.
Yeah.
This was one of the flyers that we handed out. It's a 2-sheeted thing. If you want me to, I will post the whole thing onto the IUP Twitter page tomorrow morning, or maybe even later on tonight, so you can have all you read through. I never put out a digital version there, but basically, I said in there, our flags and emblems need to be inclusive. And it's not only that, our politics, our everything needs to be inclusive. Because Ireland is not just a nation of Irish people, it's a nation of English, Scottish, Welsh, everything. We all share family across the sea. Yeah, we all share family across the sea. You'll have Republicans will always go like, "No, I don't share any English blood. No, I'm 100% Irish. I would never, ever have a cousin in England." I always just, no, I don't believe it one bit. But anyways, I'll let Net Seven go on because he was going on about a very interesting point about the whole organizations in
Sure,
America,
sure.
and especially what happened with the Sinn Fein visiting on the St. Patrick's Day march,
Mm,
where they politicized the absolute living hell out of St. Patrick's Day. Absolutely horrific. But
sure,
I'll let
Fein.
Seven go ahead.
Well, again, Sinn Féin has a pretty strong influence in politics in the United States and where over in New York City and Chicago, because there are large Irish diasporas in those areas. And unfortunately, the Irish diaspora in those communities have been essentially putty in Sinn Féin's hands. Sinn Féin has been able to successfully manipulate the narrative and to promote their toxic views of for what their toxic vision for the future of Ireland and for the region, for Ulster, et cetera, et cetera. And it's unfortunate that this is going on. I mean, when we talk about dealing with when we talk about conservative politics here in America, um, one of the things that has separated the conservative movement compared to the leftist movements in America was that for a long time, conservative movements in America wanted to challenge terrorism in all forms. Conservative movements were also wanting to challenge communism. Conservative movements were wanting to challenge, far left ideology or radical Islamist ideology, etc. That's different from, the Democratic Party, which is, in my opinion, been a very appeasement party. And unfortunately, some of those influences of appeasement and isolation have infected a certain section of the Republican Party here in America. But thankfully, though, I think there's a strong comeback happening right now. And a part of that comeback is having a firm foundation in what we believe in all our aspects of foreign policy. So very often, the neoconservative movement was largely centered on Middle Eastern affairs, in East Asian affairs. Combating China, the Chinese Communist Party, and combating Islamist terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, Al Qaeda, Al Shabaab, etc., etc. But there's more to it, though. We'd forget that even in the West, there were terrorist organizations of Marxist-Leninists or far left ideologies. There was ETA over in Spain, which wanted to. Which was a far left Marxist-Leninist separatist Basque separatist organization, and then there was the IRA, in the Republic of Ireland and in Ulster, who were essentially, uh, you know, Marxist Leninists, or far left, or yes, and yes, even National Socialists, because again, they were nationalists and they were also left wing socialists. So so and then we think about what happened in Republic of Ireland, with what the IRA did throughout the Troubles, murdering policemen, murdering British soldiers, murdering civilians, intimidating people and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is that while Sinn Féin um, pretends that it's about political discourse and it's about peace and stuff like that, the reality is that a lot the thugs that they have in their party, that were those people, the same people who either A, participated directly in the terrible atrocities during the Troubles, or they essentially were apologists for what was going on. And so even today, even though that the circumstances have changed, even though the circumstances may have changed, you have to remember that a true policy should never be to talk or negotiate with terrorists and not to legitimize them. And the United States has made the mistake, of legitimizing, terrorist organizations like the IRA through Sinn Féin, you know, and the Taliban, recently, under the guise of the idea that, well, we're trying to create peace, and therefore, we should talk with these people. But all you do by talking with them is you legitimize their nefarious, evil activities. And what we're seeing right now in Ireland is the result of those poor policies that, have been adopted by different American administrations, in which they said, well, we'll talk to Sinn Fein, we'll recognize Sinn Fein in the promotion of peace. But what benefit has Sinn Fein done for Ireland? It's only exacerbated the community divides. It's only made them worse. It's only heightened, potential and real violence between communities. And not only that, they're just grossly incompetent. You know, and they're pathetic when it comes. They call themselves nationalists and defending their so-called interests. But when recently the Russian the Navy came off the shores of Ireland, what did Sinn Féin do? Nothing. They had no response.
Yeah.
And it was actually Irish, fishermen who took it on their own initiative to go out and confront the Russian Navy. What did the government do? It did nothing, and it was embarrassing.
Yeah, well, I want to talk upon the embarrassment because it's very disappointing for me because personally, at one point I was thinking about joining the Defence Forces. In my growing up years, I always wanted to join the Irish Defence Forces. I decided against it due to so many failings during the recent years. The Irish Defence Forces, if you don't know, had brought up a recent, because in response of the whole Russian Navy incident. I'm not too sure if you noticed the whole article, David, but did you see about the whole, they wanted to revamp the Navy and revamp the Air Force?
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Don't
but
think
yeah, they wanted to like completely renew their whole entire Navy and Air Force and get a whole pile of new men out there. But due to the lack of funding and the actual lack of everything, they had no manpower. There is basically no manpower available in Ireland unless if you added in conscription, which is no, that's not going to happen in Ireland. I don't think it should ever happen in Ireland. We're not at war just yet. But yeah, they wanted to do this, and the end of it all was the Irish government had to just accept in more British airplanes, more British Navy, and it's all run by British generals and the British Army. So basically, the Irish have just left it up to the British to run free for other countries and everything. And yet again, I'd have to argue that why do we have separate armies if we are so reliant on the British Army when it just makes sense for us all to just fully cooperate together as one army? But sure, I'll probably get off this subject because otherwise we get too much into it. But I will actually say about the whole Ukrainian war. There has been Irishmen that went over there. I'm pretty sure one of them actually has passed away, or I think one of them did pass away, sadly, due to Russians. I know there was quite a lot of combat between the Irish and the Russians. A lot of Irish Defence Force veterans going over, which is good on them for going over.
Yeah.
My father is a veteran himself of the army. And even he was sort of speaking to me about it, saying good on them for doing it. David, what's your whole thoughts on the Irish Defence Forces? Do you think we should probably cooperate more with Britain, or what's your views on it?
At least more cooperation, Tristan. I would say that much.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Now, I will have to admit I haven't been around Mayo too much in my lifetime, and I do plan to go there more this year because there's quite a few interesting historical places and everything I want to go to around those areas. But I have been to Leitrim, Sligo, and Galway and all that. And something that I noticed about those areas is the whole housing thing. I was actually talking to someone in Leitrim and Kinloch It's a very nice town or a wee village. Have you ever been there, Kinloch?
No, but I've heard of it, Tristan. I've heard of it, so I
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
I was talking to a very nice Dublin lady about. I was actually speaking about unionism to her. I was sort of admitting to her that I was a unionist and everything. We had a very nice conversation about it. But
Good.
I mean, it seems to me, I don't know if this is like your view on things, but there's a massive divide in the Republic of Ireland between the East and the West.
Oh, there
Like,
is big time. You know,
yeah,
big time, Tristan. It is fucking horrendous. You know.
yeah. I know in Donegal, I remember one of my old college mates, his dad goes motorbiking around there and he ended up crashing. And because of some barbed wire, he ended up splitting his thigh open.
Oh, no.
It was absolutely horrendous. Like,
Oh, my
but
God, yeah.
he had to wait around an hour for an ambulance. And it ended up having to be that they had to redirect an ambulance from Londonderry all the way to Donegal because the Donegal hospital couldn't spare any ambulances.
Oh
Uh,
gosh.
and I'm just sat here wondering is because I know my mate in County Clare, he has to go all the way to Limerick for a hospital. That's his nearest like major hospital
Nice.
if he's in
Yeah.
an emergency.
Yeah.
Is that the same thing over in Mayo where you have to travel long distance to a major big hospital if you're in an emergency or anything?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, where I'm Tristan is at least half an hour's drive from the county town of Castlebar.
Right.
That's a fact.
Yeah, that's quite an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and the hospital in Bana is dire. It's really for elderly people, more or less, you know.
Yeah. And I don't know if this issue extends to Mayo, because I know it's a massive issue in Donegal and even in Leitrim about the houses. I forget the name of the substance, is the blocks,
Oh,
the defective
I'll stop you there. It's pyrite.
pyrite, right? The defective blocks.
Something. Defective. That's exactly it.
Is this like a major issue also in Mayo?
Oh, it is. It is, Tristan. It is actually, yes.
Yeah.
It's a big one, yeah. I can tell you.
Yeah. Has there? I've seen there's been like you have the guy up from Donegal who's going down to Dublin all the time to protest it. Has there been major protests in Mayo about it, or?
It has been in Castlebar and Barna as well. Yeah.
I mean, I've never in Northern Ireland. There's never been really much of an issue of that sort of extreme. It's sadly, I will say sadly, I've only heard about this sort of issue in the past like 3 years, and I've been paying close attention to it. But yeah, no. And the sad thing about it, right? And this is the overly sad, ironic thing about it, I'm pretty sure it was a Fine Gael guy that pointed it out. Yet again, it's always Fine Gael that has to point these things out.
Yeah.
He pointed out that the longer you wait to, pay for the repairing of these houses and, the whole entire restructuring of the house, because it's not just like simply taking one thing out and then you have to reconstruct the whole entire thing, basically borderline, at least the outer layers. But the longer they wait to replace these blocks and the longer they wait to repair these houses, the bigger the bill's going to happen. It's going to cost them more and more every year that they wait, because that's how the houses are going to deteriorate more and more.
Horrendously true. It's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Right. I think we shall see if there's any questions.
Yeah, there is a question I've been noticing in the chat.
Let's ignore the thingamajiggy, the obvious one. But It's a reoccurring thing.
Well, if you don't mind, I can address one of those questions, and I think I can answer it sufficiently.
Sure.
So
Go
let's
ahead.
look. Yeah, so let's address the question from Sean Dunleavy. Okay, Sean Dunleavy is making the question. So what about the the Great Famine? Okay, the Great Famine was not a manufactured famine. Okay, it was not. So to suggest that this was a British conspiracy to kill Irish people, that's just nothing but conspiracy theory and nonsense. Okay, it's just it's ridiculous and it's not true. The Irish potato famine was essentially occurred because it was a mixture of just really just people failing to uh, have certain, to ensure that the soil itself rested and to change out the crops, every like so often. Because what happens is that when you farm land too much and too often, and you don't like give it time to the soil time to restore its nutrients and rest, what happens is that you ruin the topsoil. And so what happened, unfortunately, with the Irish potato famine is that this is something this is an interesting thing about the Bible talks about. It tells people that, farm and till the land for 6 years, but in every 7 years, let the land soil rest and simply use what you gain in the 6th year to sustain yourselves. So what happened with the Irish potato famine was a mixture of, just failing to heat proper, you know, good farming techniques and incompetence, but to suggest that it was an intentional genocide against the Irish people, that's just grossly misleading and
Yeah.
grossly incompetent and conspiracy theory.
I will also add, because I did have quite a few family members, especially in some of the more badly affected areas. As we all know, Leitrim was not a great time to be a person in Leitrim during the famine. I just want to add, because my great grandfather, he used to always worry about potato blight, even up to the 50s to 60s. He would still always say to my father, I think it was to brush the top layer or something, because he would be overly cautious about it. You got it. We're not having potato blight this year. Like, uh, and the whole issue was also a lot of the blame has to be put on. I would honestly say the churches more than anything. I don't normally like blaming the church for things, but to blame the government on it was sort of a it's sort of like a no, it's not the case. A lot of the problems with the potato blight and the management was due to the local Catholic Church and the Anglican Church sort of going like they were trying to exploit it basically. It wasn't the actual governors. One of the first people to actually report it in England was a local Irish, uh, MP, or like local Irish sort of politician guy. But the big thing, which was the main cause, which was, of course, as he said, you have to let it rest. Otherwise, you take all the nutrients out of the soil, and there's going to be nothing left if you just constantly farm it. Which is why now farmers they switch fields every once a few years. They don't always farm in the one field. It's called desertification. It's a thing that I think a lot of people need to look up at, and it's happening to Europe, and especially in Leitrim, with the forestry companies. A lot of desertification is happening. It is even an issue in Northern Ireland, uh, but also due to the weather. The weather, which was basically a complete washout, the crops were just completely destroyed. And after 1 year fails, it's hard to recover, and at that point, it's just a multi-year thing. And the same thing happened during 1925. Just during after the Civil War, there was a massive famine, uh, which led to the deaths of. It's not actually like a specific statistics, but you can search it up. The food shortage, as they called it, of 1925, and it was a very awful event. And the Dublin government said something along the lines of dismissing it as, "Oh, the people in Connacht, the people in the West, they always overreact about such things. That was the Dublin's whole entire response to the people starving and everything. It was absolutely horrific. I pointed that out in one of the posters. But I'll go into another thing here, which this guy said: will there be any future conflicts between the IEP and Republicans? No, there won't be. We're peaceful. I am a Christian. I don't believe in scrabbling with people. I believe in honest to God conversations, as we had in Dublin. And if there is any future conflict, it will have been caused by the Republicans punching us, and that'll be it. But here,
Yeah, let me just add something real quick to that point right there. Who has a history of engaging in political violence against their political opponents? Is it the Irish Unionist Party, or is it Sinn Fein? I would say that the history shows that Sinn Fein has a very, very bad record on this point, even post, the Good Friday Agreement. There is still certainly, I mean, I think you can test to this, Tristan, and you can probably confirm, obviously add to that, David, the fact that Sinn Fein members, whether it's party policy or not, certainly engage in political intimidation against their opponents.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's horrific.
There's this question from Orman Bando. By the way, Orman Bando. He's a great guy. He always messages me on Twitter, checking up while the movement's doing. But he asked, "Are you planning to campaign for a referendum for the Republic of Ireland to rejoin the United Kingdom at some point in the near future?" Now, the Irish Unionist Party, as you could suggest, is we want to reunite with the United Kingdom. Our whole entire philosophy is sort of based around the whole entire idea that in the Republic of Ireland, in Northern Ireland, there are Republican parties in opposition. These parties have the option to have border polls and to have a referendum for a united Ireland within the Republic of Ireland. Now, I believe that Unionists should have the same right in the Republic of Ireland, and I think David would agree with me that we should have the same right in the Republic of Ireland to run for election and to also be able to have the same right to referendum to rejoin the United Kingdom. And we should also, and I put this on the wee flyer, British passports. It should have been a part of the Good Friday Agreement, but there was some sort of holdback by the Republican government in the South. They disagreed with it, that citizens of the Republic of Ireland should, by birthright, also have the right, just as they have in the North, to have a British passport. Just as in the North you can have an Irish passport. It only makes sense to me. Yeah. And I only could see how that could benefit people,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But
Tristan, do you know, there is not a lunacy point to mention road safety. The Republic has American-style warning road signs, and the North has the European-style warning road signs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
They should be fucking harmonized,
Yeah.
We should harmonize with Europe, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stick to your roads. Don't follow our example when it comes to the roads.
Yeah. I've seen your motorways. I'm gonna stay away from that sort of thing. Too many straight lines for my liking there. But
yeah,
I think there's a guy who sat there saying that when it comes to 32 county Irish Unions, what do you think is believed stronger? Cultural ties or unilateral? To be honest, I think it's just sort of comes down to cultural ties with family and relations, because everyone in the Republic of Ireland has relations over in Britain. I mean, David, do you have relations that would be in Britain?
Yeah, I have a sister in London.
Yeah. I think if you asked anyone, even if you asked someone on the streets of Cork, they would say, "Oh yeah, I have a cousin there, or I have a brother there," and, But also the whole economic side of things. Economics is also a very important thing, because we can only benefit within being an economic union of Britain at the least, or just at least accepting the British pound as a second currency, as David had backed up there. But yeah, this guy I actually put it down here as well, in sort of calling marks, to say that this is an issue for the British government and the Irish government to talk over. It's not only just up to the British government. The British government has to first accept it, which I'm pretty sure the British government was accepting to it, because there was a talk about it in the past, but then of course the Republican government just said, you know what, it's a bit too much hassle, we'll just not do it. But obviously after 2008, and with so many people moving to Great Britain, it kind of backfired, because now and especially with Brexit, it would actually make Ireland a very, very good place for European countries to go to, for the simple fact that it means easier travel to Britain, because all you need is, Irish people can then get a British passport, which means that they can sort of avoid the hassle of the whole Brexit travel thing into mainland England and all that. I think I always thought that was a point to be made, but anyways, folks, it's getting to the 1 hour mark, and it's been great, lads. It has honestly been great. It's been a much more relaxed stream, which I really did think was great. Just saying, we covered this earlier. We do believe in intervention overseas. We need to join up with the British government and work on that. But
Can I also add something real quick, Tristan,
Yeah,
with regards
go
to
ahead.
the earlier question on cultural ties versus utility? David mentioned, that, he's got family over in Great Britain, and, that's obviously a part of those cultural ties. I mean, like I said, I'm not, I mean, I'm an American, but, again, Americans, from my background, my father's descended from English settlers, so we also have cultural ties too. I mean, the people of Ireland, the people of Wales, the people of Scotland, and the people of Britain are people that are united by a very similar cultural identity. It's two isles, four peoples, but one united kingdom with with a very similar history. So that's not just the cultural ties, but there's also utility involved too, because again, uh, you know, Ireland does essentially need Great Britain to protect it from, outside threats. Recently we saw how the Russian Navy came to Irish shores. The Irish Navy did not go and confront the Russians. It was, their own, fishers who did. And then obviously the British, made it clear that, send, with their naval assets that, you can't mess with Ireland. So who's really defending, the interests of the people there? And
Yeah,
it's not just in terms of, with recent threats, but it's also in terms of, terrorism, things like that. I mean, Ireland essentially needs Great Britain in terms of dealing with, internal terror issues and coordinating with, people like in the, the new IRA who are still active in the area. And so there's not just a cultural ties, but there's lots of utility right there. So, people try to ignore those connections, but the reality is that um, the people of Ireland, the Irish people are essentially an extension of the United Kingdom, and they need to be a part of that partnership and get closer.
yeah. Now, lads,
Yeah.
I don't know if David, do you want to add anything to that?
Actually agree with him, so we do. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, lads, I'm sorry that this has been quite a rushed episode, and I'm just going to apologize, by the way, for the whole restructuring of times. It was literally just because David couldn't come on any earlier, and also I've been busy all day. I had to go to work, had to work on the farm then, and then I had to help set up a party for my mates who are currently waiting on me. So I just want to say thank you for Net7, and also big thank you to David for coming on. I know it's not easy to be this open about being a unionist in Ireland, but I'm very glad that you feel comfortable enough to do so. And hey, hopefully in the future there'll be more like you. But yeah, thank you, folks. Thank you so much, and I think I'll end it here. Remember, folks, I shall announce future events on the Irish Unionist Party Twitter, Facebook group, and everything. And we will be sort of doing more IRL things in the coming months. Big things coming up in April, by the way, like massive things coming in April. So look forward to that. Anyways, folks, see you later, and God bless, and God save the Queen.
Thank you.
God save the Queen. Neocon action. V for victory.